Welcome to CIT 003, a course on web-based technologies and multimedia applications. Today lecture is the first lecture in this particular course. I suggest you all to go through the introductory lecture on this particular course before starting to run the video lectures. There are 40 lectures in this course in total, and today's lecture will be focusing on introduction to internet. The objectives of today's lecture is to learn about the evolution of internet. All of us use internet from morning to evening. In one way it is 24/7, but at the same time we don't know how it evolved, from where it came, who invented it, and initially for what purpose it was used. We do not know in future how it will be used. So we will take you through the evolution of internet in this lecture. Then there are several tools available on the internet. When the internet was in the initial stages, the tools were limited. But now we have many tools, and these many tools are going to become many more tools in the future. Then we will also know the advantages and disadvantages of internet. It's not that internet is only having advantages. There are several disadvantages also due to internet. So the objectives are to learn about the evolution of internet, to know the tools available on internet, to know the advantages and disadvantages of internet. They are the main objectives of today's lecture. So first of all, let us think about internet. It is internetwork. It is basically a short form of it. Internet is short form of internetwork. So what is a network? A network, it is a collection of elements that can communicate with each other. Basically, you must be having some knowledge about this particular topic as well as future topics which we are going to discuss. But still, every lecture will be coined at a layman's perspective. So sometimes you feel like knowing, sometimes you will feel that no, this I don't know. Sometimes you will feel that let me dwell more into it by going to the search on the internet and find more information about it. So first of all, let us know what is meant by network. A network is a collection of elements that can communicate with each other. That is the definition of a network. Technically, the word nodes is used instead of elements, but still I am using the word elements because you should not get a doubt that what is a node. So for you to make things easier, I am saying it is a collection of elements that can communicate with each other. And internet, it is something which connects to almost everything in this world. You can have internet on your mobile, you have internet on your computer, you can control several things from internet, you can save your files onto the internet. Basically, internet is a network that almost connects everything on it, in the sense that everything is inclusive into the internet. Internet means it includes everything except those things which are not on the internet till date, which we can think that they will also become part of the internet. Let us briefly dwell into the history of internet. How this internet started, how it was dreamt, who dreamt it, and who started it. Otherwise, what are the incidents that led to the ultimate invention of this internet? USSR on October 4th, 1957, launched its first artificial satellite called Sputnik. Satellite means it goes into the space, it revolves around the another planet. Then Advanced Research Projects Agency, this is called ARPA, it is based in the Department of Defense of the United States of America. What have done is they created this particular department on February 7th, 1958. ARPA proposed ARPANET in 1967. So ARPANET stands for, again, Advanced Research Projects Agency Network. It was proposed in 1967. So USSR launched its first satellite in 1957. Of course, it is the first satellite in the world. It is the world's first satellite to be launched by the USSR on October 4th, 1957. So in 1958, ARPA was created. In 1967, ARPANET was proposed by the ARPA. So initially 57, then 1958, then 1967. Now let us see what ARPANET does. ARPANET, it is basically a network for connecting computers of researchers working under ARPA to share information with each other. And it was created in 1969. So in 1967, they visualized it, the idea has come to them, they proposed it. Within 2 years, that is in 1969, it was in place. So ARPANET is nothing but it is a network. It connected all the computers of all the researchers who are working under the ARPA, that is Advanced Research Projects Agency. And this was done so that researchers can share information among each other. Researchers can also receive and send messages over the ARPANET. They can also receive data and files over the network. They can also expand quickly and network more and more computers into the ARPANET as more and more researchers join. ARPANET expanded very quickly and it networked a large number of researchers across the world. So in one way, ARPANET is the foundation for the internet. And it became the first electronic mail network. Earlier, there was no electronic mail network. This is the first electronic mail network because it has become possible for one person to send emails to another person. Then National Science Foundation of United States of America, it connected universities and non-military research sites to ARPANET. So ARPANET initially having only researchers who are working in ARPA. It connected their computers so that they can share information among each other. Now, National Science Foundation of the United States of America expanded ARPANET by connecting the universities as well as non-military research sites. So now more entities can share information, which will definitely lead to more rich, high quality research. And after including the non-military research sites as well as universities into the ARPANET, ARPANET was renamed as Internet. So it is ARPANET which evolved into Internet. So the project Internet has started. And once the project Internet has started, we have two great people whose names are Vint Cerf and Bob Kahn. They are part of the ARPANET group. They are the people who actually started Internet project in 1972. And their aim is to connect different networks together. They did not think that this particular network and that particular network, they thought from a universal perspective. They thought that let the networks across the world be connected and let us call it Internet. So to start with, ARPANET is having its researchers of ARPA, their computers connected, and then it is having non-military research sites, then it is having universities, and with the entry of Vint Cerf and Bob Kahn, different networks started getting included into the Internet, and this ultimately led to Internet where large number of networks are connected to each other. So here we have Vint Cerf also. I am also showing his image to you. He is a professor from the Stanford University. Then I am also showing you Bob Kahn. He is basically from Princeton University, and to work on TCP IP, he started contacting the Vint Cerf and started working together, and both of them together have done a lot for the evolution of Internet as well as TCP IP. There are several challenges they faced in the creation of Internet. Now, if you think that Internet, it is a global collection of networks. Each network may have its own interface. Or if there are, let me say, 1 lakh networks, it is not that all the 1 lakh networks are having the same interfaces. Now, Internet should enable communications between these different networks. So one challenge is different interfaces. The second challenge is packet sizes. Packet means it is a collection of bits, or you can say bytes. When data is being transmitted from one place to another place, everything is done in terms of bits. So these bits are grouped into packets. Now there is a specific size for the packet in each network. So these packet sizes are not uniform. So when you are bringing all the networks onto the internet, now there should be some uniformity, or there should be some way of really interpreting these packets and really understanding these interfaces so that internet works intermittently and more networks can be included as part of it. Another challenge is the transmission rates of these networks. Different networks are having different transmission rates. So that is also needs to be taken care of. So there are three challenges. One challenge is different interfaces. Another challenge is different packet sizes. Another challenge is different transmission rates. So there are three challenges in the creation of internet. Now, what are the solution to the challenges? One solution is gateway. It is basically a piece of hardware which enables data transfer from one network to another by doing necessary conversions of protocols, etc. So there is one network, there is another network. Let me say N1 is a network, N2 is another network. Now N1 and N2 are to communicate with each other, but they both are having different protocols. They run on different protocols. Their transmission rates are different. Their interfaces are different. Their packet sizes are different. Now, how they can communicate? Then it is the gateway, the piece of hardware, which actually facilitates it. It stands in between, takes communication from one and interprets it to the other. So gateway, it is basically hardware that enables data transfer from one network to another by doing all the necessary conversions of protocols. Without gateway, the networks can't communicate with each other because they don't understand each other, because they are built on different parameters. Another solution is, of course, this is one solution. Now the second solution, it is not optional. It is also part of the solution. That is TCP/IP. TCP/IP stands for Transmission Control Protocol or Internet Protocol. It was proposed in 1973, and TCP/IP is nothing but it is a suite of protocols that are doing a lot of work on the internet. Without TCP/IP, one can forget internet. One can easily assume that it is not possible, or it would have not been possible to have a internet which we are experiencing today. Original ARPANET protocols are abolished. So initially ARPANET is having protocols, all those protocols were removed. TCP/IP made de facto standard for internet. Any new network coming onto the internet, any new device coming onto the internet needs to have its conformance with the TCP/IP. First TCP/IP network became operational in 1983. The first transmission control protocol or internet protocol network, it has come in 1983. All hosts on the ARPANET were switched over from older ARPANET protocols to TCP/IP. Once TCP/IP has become the standard for internet, all the protocols of ARPANET and other networks were switched to TCP/IP. Now, internet is one, and we also know one more thing, that is World Wide Web. We always start our URLs with www dot. www stands for World Wide Web. So, World Wide Web was invented by Sir Tim Berners-Lee. He is a British scientist, and he invented the World Wide Web in 1989 at CERN, CERN, and it is an European organization for nuclear research. Basically, there is a fundamental difference between internet and World Wide Web, but together they become very powerful. The collection of internet connected documents and other resources can be said as World Wide Web. On World Wide Web, we have many interconnected documents. That is the striking feature of World Wide Web. World Wide Web is one of the many services available through internet. It also provides point and click interface to text, images, sound, and movies. We are at one place, we click on a link, we go to another place. Like that, the entire internet is connected. One is hardware perspective, the another is software perspective. Anything which you placed on it is interconnected with others. So Tim Berners-Lee has invented the World Wide Web, and as I've already said earlier, internet with World Wide Web has become very, very powerful. The key feature of the World Wide Web is that hypertext, which enables us to navigate across the documents that are connected. So we have a document. In that document, we have several elements. Nowadays, anything on internet is a HTML document. Okay, so you take any website, it is having a number of elements in it, and basically it is a HTML page. It is having images, it is having videos. In some advanced portals are having 360-degree photos, VR videos, augmented reality videos, 360-degree videos. So lot of elements are there. And one interesting thing is that wherever there is a hyperlink, when we click it, it takes us to some other document somewhere else. Yes, instantly we don't know from where the document has come, but it can be from any part of the world. Maybe the document which we are seeing may be in one continent. When we click on the hyperlink, the document that gets loaded may be from another continent. So this is the power of the World Wide Web. So internet is one which connected all the networks, and World Wide Web is one which connected all the documents across all these networks, so that we can intermittently browse through the internet for the necessary information. During evolution, World Wide Web also included multimedia apart from just hypertext. So when you are learning, basically you will start creating HTML documents. As part of HTML documents, you will include some images, you will include some links to other documents, you will create frames, you will do a lot of things. But as you learn, as you practice, you will see that you will be able to design wonderful websites with advanced HTML as well as the latest versions of the HTML. So the power of World Wide Web is that hypertext as well as multimedia. So these are the strengths of the World Wide Web. The first browsers for World Wide Web are Voila, Mosaic. The first browser was invented in 1990s, that is Voila, and this is the first browser for the World Wide Web, and it was replaced by Mosaic in 1992. In fact, I worked with Mosaic in 1997 or 1998. Before switching to Netscape Navigator, and then switching to Internet Explorer, and ultimately switching to Google Chrome. Mosaic, it displayed not only text of a web page, but also embedded graphic elements. Voila doesn't have that feature. It only displays the text on the web page. It cannot embed the graphic elements, but Mosaic supported it. So Mosaic became powerful, and Mosaic replaced Voila in 1992. Then there are several developments in the internet evolution. In 1992, USA pulled out of network management of internet, and commercial entities started offering access to public for the first time. Until 1992, it is closed. Not everybody was able to access the internet. But once USA pulled out of the network management, commercial entities, they started giving access to internet to the public also for the first time. In 1994, all walks of people, including those from academic as well as technical areas, showed interest in the internet. Naturally, because you don't need to go to a library if you are having access to internet. In fact, first you can try through internet in case you think that the entire library is not part of internet at that time. At least first you can try on internet, and in case you don't get the information, you can go to the library. In 1996, internet became very, very popular. Many existing public networks have become part of the internet. So 1996 is the booming period for the internet. Internet expanded very fast, very hugely, very quickly. So these are some of the developments in the evolution of the internet. So everything started becoming active from 1992 onwards. By 1996, there is a huge variation. So internet that was seen in 1992 is different. Internet that was seen in 1996 is different, and internet in 2020 is completely different. Now, there are several advantages of internet. One is World Wide Web. We have already discussed it. It is the World Wide Web which connected all the documents across the networks, and we do not know basically how many networks are there on the internet. We just keep on browsing, and we don't know from which network to which network it is moving and getting information and putting us on the display so that we are able to access it. Then discussion groups. This is a wonderful feature of internet. In discussion groups, what happens is that you have many people can initiate their own discussions on the own topics, and others can keep commenting on it, and people can comment on each other's comments. So in that way, it has become possible that not a limited number of people sitting physically at one place can discuss, but it has also become possible to unlimited number of people across the world to participate in the discussion, thus giving more insight into the discussions as well as increasing the productivity levels. Because suppose I don't know something, I post it to the discussion group, somebody from somewhere is responding to it. Suppose I have a limited number of people and I ask them, they may know or they may not know. But now, if I post something to internet, I can be damn sure that I will get the answer. In very, very, very rare cases, you will not get the answer which is not convincing. Discussion groups are very, very powerful for students, for scientists, as well as all those people who are having to think as part of their jobs. Blogging. This is one more advantage. In the case of blogging, you just put your own views, your own opinions on the internet. Let others comment. Here, it's not that others will also put their views and people can comment on any other person's view. It's not like that. In one way, a blog is your own personal discussion group. You create a blog on mobile learning. In fact, I created 2 to 3 blogs. One is on IGNOU SMS alert services, and then one is on mobile learning, and then one is for the academic counselors of IGNOU. So when I post something, yes, it is possible for others to comment on it, but the main post will be mine. So I'll be putting my posts, others can comment on it. It's not that others can also post and anybody can comment on anybody's post. That's possible in the case of discussion groups, not in the case of blogging. So blogging has become very popular. Almost every person is having a blog, to my knowledge. Maybe some people still doesn't have, and they may also move forward. It has become possible to transfer files. So using internet, we can transfer files. There is a protocol called a file transfer protocol. Using that, we can transfer files from one place to another place. It is possible for you to access things remotely. For example, you are at home and you have a computer at office. It is possible that you access the computer at office from your home. This has become possible due to internet. For example, Go to My PC is one portal from where you can subscribe to access your computer from any other computer. Then we also have software like TeamViewer and others which will facilitate accessing remotely. One most important advantage of internet is online services. Today, almost every service available online. You want to book a air ticket, you want to book a railway ticket, you want to book a bus ticket, you want to book a ticket to watch a film, you want to place order for groceries, you want to buy clothes, you want to place order for home appliances, you can almost get any service. In fact, learning is also an online service now. You subscribe to some portals and immediately you start getting educational services from them, because now almost everything is online. Then there are online resources, many resources. I want to access a particular research paper. Yes, it is possible. I can access it on the internet as long as it is available or made available. Otherwise, maybe I have to subscribe and then I can access it on the internet. There is no need that I send a demand draft, I subscribe, they will send me a printed copy. So there are large number of online resources. Podcasting, it has become possible due to internet. iPod from Apple, it is a famous device which facilitates podcasting. It has become possible to know information, to acquire knowledge as well as to learn. We have search engines, we have YouTube from where we can learn a lot. It is possible to connect with others, communicate with others, share with others by using the features like chat, voice over internet protocol, email and forums. It is possible to know the routes from any place to any place. It is possible to find out who is where at that particular moment. All these things are possible due to global positioning systems, again, which use internet normally. So address, mapping, contact information are possible to be known. You can bank online. Earlier you have to go to a bank, but now there is no need for you to go to a bank. Happily sit inside and you can access your bank on the internet. It is possible to pay bills online. It is also possible to do shopping online and everything is delivered at your doorstep. So banking has become possible, paying bills has become possible, shopping has also become possible. Buying and selling has become possible. You can immediately sell. There is no need for you to look for a shop physically, hire the people, furnish it and then sell. No, create a portal for selling and you can start. And you can start selling on portals like Flipkart and Amazon. It is also possible to buy online. You can buy on Flipkart, Amazon, as well as many other portals like Big Basket and others. It is possible to collaborate with others. For example, when you are working from home, you can just work as if you are working from your office. And in fact, internet provides access to the global workforce. It is possible to donate online. It is also possible to fund online. It is possible to view movies online. So entertainment is also possible due to internet. Then a new technology has come which is called IoT, Internet of Things, due to which you can access internet on wearable devices. For example, you have Apple Watch, you have Samsung Watch, from where you can access the things. So IoT is taking a big leap and many things are going to be part of IoT in the near future. Cloud services have become possible. There is no need for you to put a file, take printout and staple it there. Just upload the file and you access from anywhere. Cloud service has made it possible that you don't need to have huge memory. Just buy some memory in the cloud, upload things there, download from anywhere. So upload from anywhere, download from anywhere. Cloud services are great because it is also possible now to run the applications. There is no need to buy software. You can directly take software on rent using the cloud service. There are a number of companies which are giving software for the rent through cloud. Earlier, if you have to buy a software, we need to spend a lot of money. Now there is no need. We hire that particular software for a month, and once our job is done, we may or may not renew our particular subscription to the software. So buying a software, it is going to cost in lakhs. Hiring a software or taking software for rent will cost us few thousands or few hundreds sometimes. So there is a huge difference. It is enabling many people to come onto the board of internet and use internet, and then always offer their services with minimal amount. And one thing which all of us access every day are social networks. Again, all these have become possible only due to internet. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all these have become possible only due to internet. So this is one major advantage of internet, because almost everybody is on social network. All news channels are on the internet, all political leaders are on the internet, all people who are in responsible positions are on internet, all departments are on internet. So if everything has moved to the social network, then it is basically internet which facilitated them. So if you don't have internet access for an hour, you are going to miss a lot. WhatsApp, that is something again which runs on the internet. So lot of advantages of internet. But at the same time, there are some disadvantages also. Cyberbullying. So people using absurd languages, accusing the people online, people getting disturbed, some violent content being posted, some distractive messages being posted, and then people robbing the data theft, that has become a major headache, hacking of the computers, putting junk, putting too much advertising on your sections of the portals, then due to excessive watching of the internet, health issues and obesity. So these are some of the disadvantages of internet. So today we have seen how the internet has evolved. We have also learned a bit about the TCP IP. We have also seen the advantages and disadvantages of the internet. So today's lecture is basically introducing the internet to you. The fact that you are watching this lecture means that you already have access to internet and you know a bit about internet. But at the same time, many of us don't know the history of internet. So there is a need to know about the tools that are available on the internet also. So today we learned about evolution of internet. We learned about the tools that are available on the internet. We also learned about the advantages and disadvantages of internet. Thank you very much for joining me. And in case you have any doubts, questions, suggestions, please feel free to email to me. Thanks a lot.